I do want to go back to that way of working document again. Give me an example of like what exactly is in there? Because I think it's a really good document to have out there.
So my way of working document gets updated probably once or twice a year I'm
Mhm.
also again introducing myself to people. So what's in that document is it shows the metrics. I take a snapshot of my dashboard with all of my metrics and I go, this is what we do as a company every year. And then after they pick themselves off the floor with that one, then I start going into, and this is how I do things from a year out. This is what we start planning. And then about 6 months out, this is the next steps we take. And about 3 months out is when we really start to ramp things up. Now, I'm going to be working a lot in the background and you're not going to see stuff, but about a couple of weeks ahead of time, I'm going to show you everything that I've done and I'm going to get you ready to go to the show floor completely prepared. After that, I also tell them a little bit about myself so that they know the type of person that they're working with. And then I open the floor to any suggestions that they might have, things they saw previously in a previous life that they really thought worked well with other trade show programs, and just trying to build that rapport with them.
What's like the largest trade show that you all go to where like
We
your
do
presence is the largest?
we do two 20 by 30 shows. And the first year that I worked for the company, they were literally 3 days apart from one another. And
Oh my God.
I figured if I could survive two 20 by 30s, 3 days
Yeah.
apart in my first 6 or 8 months of working, I could do anything. So
Yeah.
this
Tell
year they're
me,
6 weeks apart.
tell me, for those two shows or just for one of them, let's just use one of them as an example, right? What does your typical planning process look like? How far in advance? What are you planning? What are you thinking? Just walk us through.
We're already working on the one in May. The one mid-March, we're about ready to kick off. The May one's kind of got a little more skin in the game. They're both equally important. We have a dedicated meeting room, and one of the events that we go to, we can have anywhere from 150 to 180 meetings scheduled for both the meeting room and off-site. The other one's not as intense. And then, of course, we've got the booth where we're changing up the graphics every year and reevaluating our messaging and what we need to do there. So my first step is usually to pull the facts together. I'll start the basics of my PowerPoint and then get together with my Marcom team. We have our huddle and we'll talk about what we're seeing as important points that we need to talk about in that booth, get our thoughts together, and then we'll set a meeting with all the key stakeholders and the event owners and say, this is what we think. Tell us if we're right, if we're wrong. And then we move off from there. And the graphics team starts working on graphics and off we go.
So 5 to 7 months out is typically the planning process, right? So you're giving yourself plenty of time. You're not leaving anything to chance there. Tell me a little bit about that meeting with the marketing communications department. What does that meeting look like?
It's really a brainstorming session. I tell them what we've got, and then we figure out what we need. And then brain trust gets together and decides how we need to move forward with concepts and developing those concepts into reality. So
You're talking at all about like your customer at the event, how things are changing with them, how you're positioning yourself? Are discussions like that happening?
yes, absolutely.
And then from there, when you go to the stakeholder conversation, what does the stakeholder conversation look like?
Well, we're showing them what we've developed as a team, and we find out if we're on track, if they agree with that's what maybe some of the pain points are in the industry and how we as a company address those pain points.
Mm.
And so from there, we can further define the messaging and then hopefully have a completed booth in enough time to produce it without stressing everybody out.
Yeah. At what point do you get sales involved? Are sales at these trade shows? Where do they connect in?
They are, and sometimes that's kind of strange because the salespeople, their presence is sometimes determined on how many meetings they set up. They get set up ahead of
Mhm.
time for it. So it's not unusual for a salesperson to think that they're going and then last minute not be going. It's more of the leadership team that we're working with and planning these things.
Is sales a big part of the pre-show marketing to set these meetings ahead of time with contacts and connections and
Oh,
customers and prospects?
absolutely. Absolutely. That's their job,
Yeah.
So
That's one thing I think that I've learned over time is a lot of people are not utilizing their sales department to the best of their ability, in the sense that a big question that always arises from customers, from just doing this show, from talking and networking people is, more pre-show planning, pre-show marketing. How do you get people to the booth? How do you set those meetings? How do you get that engagement? And I've said for a while now, the best companies that we work with and the best companies that I've spoke to and we've been around, they heavily utilize their sales team in the trade show and event process because they know who are the prospects, who's in the top 100 list, who is in, who are the top customers that are going to be there, who are the people that are in the pipeline already that we have had touch points with or are in the process of selling to that are going to be there. And having them help set up those meetings can really accelerate a trade show for a company.
Yeah, and a couple of things that come to mind with that, especially with the bigger shows, and we're going to start doing it for the smaller shows, is when I have people coming from different business units who maybe share the same customer, we're going to start setting up a scheduling Excel spreadsheet for them so that they can put their meetings in there. And then others can see what meetings are being held. So they're not inviting the same customer to another meeting, 2 hours later. There's some synergies there that they can build upon. The sales team is vital to this, the whole, the meeting process. We do a lot of digital marketing, email blasts for them, and then have a contact us, call to action, set up a meeting at the show. This insurance business is kind of strange in that we also get the attendee list from a lot of our shows. And I did not see that in my previous life, getting the attendee list.
Yeah, that's pretty, there are literally there's screaming matches over the attendee list. You guys are just getting them. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Yeah. that is something that, the planning process to do a trade show properly, from pre-show marketing, the during show execution, the booth, everything, it is cumbersome. And to do it the right way is to put a lot of work into it. Right. But it's the only way to create output. And having to involve sales, get stakeholder buy-in, working with marketing and communications, you're cross department, you're working vertically as the event person. You are working with so many different departments, your stakeholders, of course, your partners, the show, the organizers, all to pull off this 3-4 day thing. So I always just stress people, put the time, put the effort, put the energy in. And if the show doesn't produce the results once you've done that, then you can reevaluate the show.